Innovative, revolutionary, stellar development, purest universal knowledge. In a transformative, futuristic design. The Universal Body Enhancement Spaceship Unit. The very first new evolutionary spaceship technology has been rolled out for mass production. Our Universal Body Enhancement Spaceship Unit is constructed from high-quality materials carefully selected by our team of experts. Embedding the essence of the new GANS plasma science and technology, it uses collective plasma field technology for changing and enhancing the environment of the body of the man. This new plasma enhancement changes the environment of the body to allow it to return to its natural, balanced energetic condition, as in the womb of the mother, allowing every cell in the body of the man to find its natural, original field strength balance. The shape and field distribution in this new space plasma technology replicates the inner structure of the universe and replicates the balance fields from which the man was created at the point of inception in the womb of the mother, not only receiving balance in the physical, but also in the emotional sense too. For the first time in the history of man, a system has been developed and delivered which not only enhances the physical body of the man, but also enhances the emotional part of the user of the system, hence reducing and eliminating many problems that could not be solved in the world of science, to bring the body of the man into near perfection, as at the time of birth. This new spaceship technology can be within the reach of every man today and can be ordered by medical practitioners, sports specialists and healthcare centres. The Universal Enhancement Spaceship Unit, the future you have been waiting for, is here. The journey from space to spaceship technology has started. Every order is subject to a contractual agreement and might require additional accessories priced separately for applications according to each case. You can order or contact us at office@at.kfm.global for additional information.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the 312th Knowledge Seekers Workshop for Thursday, January 23rd, 2020. This is a broadcast of the Keshe Foundation Spaceship Institute Education Department and part of the Public Teachings in English. My name's Rick Krem. I'll be one of the hosts tonight, along with, or today, in other parts of the world, along with Flint Mulhausen. And we have Mr. Mayran Keshe of the Keshe Foundation ready to go once again for another Knowledge Seekers Workshop. Hello, Mr. Keshe. Are you ready to begin today?
Yes, good morning to you, as usual, wherever and whenever you listen to this series of Knowledge Seekers program. And today, as usual, as it's our 312th program, we will share knowledge in the way that all of us can benefit by it. And somewhere down the line, sometimes someone will benefit by it according to their needs. Today's program is very special. We have announced in China, across the Chinese, or what we call Keshe Foundation, and the Keshe supporters and the universities and the government, that this teaching today, in around about an hour and a half into the program, will become what we call Chinese Influenza Blueprint, which means we teach the Chinese people, the Chinese authorities, how fast they can reverse this, what we call mayhem has been created in China. As you know, we have handled the African swan fever, which is a double strand, but this one is a single strand. It's much easier to handle. Effects are immediate, and in so many ways, I know many Chinese Keshe Foundations are listening in the background. As has been tradition, Keshe Foundation will open all its assets to the Chinese nation, which means all the productions and all the facilities of Keshe Foundation and knowledge seekers will become assets of the Chinese nation. We'll go into this in more detail. And as we said, we have reserves. We can support 1 million sick people in China. And by the end of next week, after the holidays, we can increase our support to 10 million Chinese, those who are affected and those who might be affected. This is a single strand virus, and control of it is much, much easier than the African pig. And we have seen some results in the past 24 hours, 48 hours. We will make sure that what we call the knowledge and the facilities of Keshe Foundation in China opens up to the public. Chinese universities, Chinese authorities all have been informed, and many people will be online. We'll start around about now, and we go through this process. It's good for the rest of the Keshe Foundation supporters around the world. We heard that the flu has appeared in Brazil, as they are reporting. We know Chinese is a season of traveling, it's their holidays. So they'll be carrying this virus right across this planet. Every one of us is vulnerable, especially if you fly through airports. And we cannot ban the Chinese not to travel, but we welcome them, but we have to be prepared to support the nation in time of need. This is the responsibility of Keshe Foundation supporters worldwide. You have access to all the gases. This is a serious matter. Estimated 10 to 20 million people can be affected already. It has 12 days incubation time, and you can see how bad the situation can get. It's become extremely serious in China. It's become a worrying condition for the Chinese authorities, and we are responding to the need of the nation in respect to the Keshe Foundation as one nation, one planet, one race. On the other hand, as usual, we go further into the teaching till we get to that point when we receive a message from our people in China that everything is set up and is ready to go. In that process, we will instruct and we will inform the Keshe Foundation knowledge seekers in how to handle, how to apply, and how to, what we call, prevent, or if you are affected, to be looked after properly, that you can overcome the virus. On the other hand, as we are going ahead with the teaching of usual pattern we work, the Keshe Foundation, as you know, will become instrumental in many ways in different applications and implications around the world. For this reason, we asked a lot of knowledge seekers to be prepared for the next step development. And as we said, in February, we'll release the CO2 capture systems as a commercial unit, and then as an agricultural unit, and then as a water purification and what we call for animal care. This unit will be displayed hopefully before end of February, and it'll go on sale within the next 2 to 3 weeks, immediately a week after Chinese New Year comes to an end. There is a part of the teaching which we convey the message in the Iranian channel teachings, which I think it should be shared worldwide. It opens up a new dimension or brings out the totality of the knowledge in what we have shared before. And in so many ways, we share this knowledge because it is important to be understood. Following the situation with Iran in Iraq, a new structure and understanding is needed by the Keshe Foundation knowledge seekers to understand how the totality of the knowledge has to be understood and be shared. In the teaching, in the Iranian teaching, I try to go into more depth with this. And in so many ways, it's important for all of us to understand this now that we have come to this conjuncture, where we start understanding the totality of the knowledge. In the past years, we have taught about the gas reactors, which was developed in Iran and further developed in Europe. Then we introduced you to the gas technology. And then we came across the other states of the plasma in production of the materials and how things are created. In the knowledge and the science of the Keshe Foundation, we have covered 3 levels. One level into our understanding is what we call gravity and the magnetic field. There is another one, what we call inertia, plus gravity, plus magnetic field. And then we have one is what we call inertia. This is part of the teaching which has to be clarified, especially now that we're going into the space level, understanding of the space technology in a very simple way. What does inertia alone mean? Inertia flight system is very simple. What does this mean? It means we use the matter states equipment or materials to achieve what we call levitation. It is not possible, extremely difficult to be able to fly across through space to another destination by inertia. It is possible. Some races have tested it, but it is extremely eating food by turning your hand around your head, as we call it. What does this mean? Flight by inertia is when we use matter states, dynamic systems, or understanding of it to create flights. We've seen this one with the American military in test in 1975, where they managed to create a series of dynamic rotating magnets at a higher speed, and in conjunction and position of different magnets, they managed to create a flight in respect to solid state position of other magnets or rotating opposite to each other. We achieve levitation. There is a limitation in height, but the energy put in to achieve is beyond the energy and what it can be done outside. So we have seen this done by other groups being achieved to even live to a few meters and then coming back to position they cannot literally travel very high. This is what we call the dynamic motors. In a way, it's dynamic and the system can fly parallel to Earth more or less within the space gap. What does this mean? It means we cannot go high. We cannot travel between the what we call planetary system. But we can work within the structure of understanding the totality of our work in the way that we can extend the work and the knowledge to the level that it can allow us to do simple things, simple flight system, simple understanding of the whole process. But then this creates a condition for us that we have the limitation of the planet Earth. We have the limitation of what we call restriction to move. Creating interaction with this level can lead or maybe allow us to go maybe a little bit in a combination of inertia and what we call magnetic gravitational field forces. So inertia, magnetic gravitational field forces are matter state conditions. On the other hand, we need to be able to understand furthermore. This is for objects, for moving cars. This is for understanding the totality of the system that allows us to be able to operate within cities. Cars, maybe, as we've seen in so many ways, with electronic connections and electrical powers to be able to run trains. The next step, which is what we call gravitational magnetic field system with inertia, is what we know as gases. What this means? It means we use a combination of the gravity and inertia and magnetic field in understanding of the interaction of the two parts together to give us what we see as a gas. We have a system which has gravity and magnetic field as a condition of a plasma, but in conjunction with inertia manifests itself as gas. That's why for the first time you can see energy packages, but they have no what we call dimension, and in so many ways they are very much connected to life. Inertia, gravitational magnetic field is what we call human body. An interaction of the energy with inertia, not becoming into the matter state, gives an intermediary state, what we know as gas. Energy packs in condition of what we call interaction of the fields of the plasma with the inertia or matter state of the planet. In this process, a new understanding, a totally comprehension of the science is needed by the world of science to be able to share the totality of the knowledge between inertia and what we call small gravitational magnetic field elements of the plasma of the matter that it manifests itself in the gas state. This we have shown we can create and use their fields in the dynamic cores, where what we call, we create fields for body enhancement, we create fields for agriculture, we water the plants with the energy transfer in the matter state, the inertia, we use it for all sorts of applications, which we have seen for past years. Then we have systems which are entirely and totally are what we call gravitational magnetic field system. These are the flight system. These are what we saw with the Iranian flight system. Creation of vast areas to cover, vast dimensions, and creation of a singular cell collective matter state movement. A planet is this. It creates gravity and magnetic field, and in that process of dynamic condition, it creates and holds on and creates a field of protection for itself. Planetary system is one of them. So if we understood the three different positions of the creation and interaction of the fields in matter state and plasma state, and the plasma state itself, man has entered a new dimension in the world of science and understanding of totality. Americans and some scientists in 1970s and 60s managed to get there. You as knowledge seekers in the past 5 years have managed to get to here. The Iranian space program and the Keshe Foundation Space Program has laid the claim onto this part. But in that process, if you understand the totality, you can amalgamate and create a condition that all three can exist within each other, very much as we see on this planet. The human race, the animals, the plants exist as an inertial gravitational magnetic field of the plasma, as one unit, as a combination, or when the fields are singularity, we see it as the stone, iron, and copper, and the rest. Or when we see the dimension of the interaction of dynamic system, a planetary system, the flight system, you call it UFOs, you call it the spaceships, you call it Earth, Moon, is the same. The comprehension of this is needed in the next phase as we enter the March meeting in Iran in respect to the space technology. So when we travel the depth of the space, when we travel across this universe, now we have to understand the totality of this knowledge. Which is which, and where we need what, and how we extend this knowledge to its ultimate goal of life in depth of the space, in the security of the gravitational magnetic fields, both gravity and shielding, and at the same time to be able to create materials that once we need, if the dimension of inertia and gravitational magnetic field created. I go to planet Zeus, but I would like to have what we call the chair on planet Earth because I've been there, I had the experience of it, but on planet Zeus, I'm 4 meters to 10 meters tall, but on Earth I'm this, so on planet Zeus I have to make myself a giant chair that I can sit. I don't need to sit on the ground. So we carry the knowledge. We see how conditions are, which depends what we need to produce. I get to moon, I know I can create water, but I need the matter of inertia in a loose field of the gravity, but the strength of the magnetical to be liquid. Then we understand the knowledge of the man has to enter a total and full understanding of the knowledge of the universe. Would humanity, would mankind enter a totality of understanding of everything, or would we, in the process of understanding, create a new dimension for us to be able to share knowledge in the depth of universe? What we have seen in the past 2 weeks, many people have asked me one question. Can you explain what happened on the ground in Iraq in respect to the Iranian forces and American forces, and what led the Americans general to stand in front of the what we call group of journalists, literally observing their physical shaking in their skin, and we listen to the lie of a president in not telling his nation the total truth. What happened in Iraq? What happened with the forces, American forces and Iranian forces, that has led us to peace? Obsoleting the old, bringing a new dimension, but in understanding the totality of the field forces of the universe, in understanding the implication and application of the totality of the knowledge. Let me explain to you in a simple way what happened in Iraq last week, 2 weeks ago. This is for Iranian government officials to take further. This is the American base. Let's bring it in the middle. This is the American base with the, what we call European partners. We saw this work with drone. We saw this work used by the Russians on American ship. What the Iranian did, very simple. Placed a system which created a dome, which isolated any communication in and out. As they created a barrier, then in so many ways, the American army was at the mercy of another force. The American forces, drones, satellites, air force, ground force cannot penetrate, could not even see or communicate with the base to know what is the fate of the people in this position. In so many ways, if you understand, this is the base, and in so many ways, this is the dome, and in so many ways, how do you want us to do? For 10 minutes, the barrier was kept, and everything possible was rained upon that no man will fight again. We explained the same situation with a drone, if you remember, some years ago. We explained the same thing, what happened with a ship in what we call European waters. So what Iran did is literally paralyze the communication, the defense technology of one of the most advanced nations in the world. My objective to it, which I objected strongly, was not to do what they did in destroying the base, but in so many ways, the Iranian but maybe that was the message, that no one is immune. What we see in the international arena is very simple. Many, many military contracts are on the table, questionable to be signed. If the American forces could not protect their own, what technology are they selling us to protect ourselves? Has Iran brought a new dimension into defense technology and peace technology? As I said to the Iranian teaching, which was directly broadcast to Tehran, is a very simple position. We have no choice but to enter peace. Let me explain the next step of what we see and what I advise the Iranian leaders to follow and to be brought to the United Nations table very rapidly. As sanctions has been on Iran for a long time for supplying arms or whatever to what they claim to be different sectors in Syria or wherever, now that we have this new technology, Iran has to become the enforcer of peace, that no nation can ship any arms across the planet. Technology is within the reach of Iran, is developed by the Iranian scientists, and now needs to be applied and confirmed by what we call the March Conference. What does this mean? How come Iran was under pressure that if they ship fuel or guns or tanks or food to Syria, it was a criminal offense. From now on, no nation can carry any ships or planes or material from any border which can endanger life or create war. As we say in English, what is good for geese is good for the gander. What is good for the female duck is good for the male duck. So what we see is a total ban and enforced by the Iranian new technology of movement of arms by any nations, be it the United States, be it Russia, be it Iran, be it China. This has changed the position of the force. This has changed a new dilemma for the American administration. If you remember when we entered the peace talks, when we got the Iranian negotiations 5+1 to the conclusion the last weeks, I made a speech to the Senate that I want to know which member of Senate will object to creation of 5 to 15 million jobs by signing of the peace treaty and contract with Iran, which then went through the Senate. Now the reality dooms home that as the American government military apparatus cannot export, cannot sell, as the Iranians cannot, as the Russians and the Chinese, any more tools of war across the borders, what happens to billions of millions of dollars income from the military and the jobs in the United States? This forces a new position for the American government. We will see, as I said last week, rapid unemployments in all states, especially the state of California. This brings us to one point. We bring condition of peace across all the nations through the development of technology, deployment of the Keshe Foundation plasma technology on a GM condition, and then we have to use the condition of inertia and gravitational magnetic field as plasma field forces to be able to create food and in so many ways energy for the number of the Americans which go unemployed and have no food to do, no money to feed their family and their nation. This is not a dream. This is a dream which will hit the European nations and the American nation in a very rapid way. An achievement is reached, an agreement is reached between all the nations how to divert these talents in these companies which they're making tool of arms and they're not and cannot ship into a new application of what we call new technologies. My suggestion is very easy. Keshe Foundation has put position for a massive, what we call structure in the state of Arizona. And we invite the American advanced technologies to join us with the Iranian scientists at this site to develop new technologies that secures national food security for America, as doesn't matter what amount of food you have, you cannot go any further with all these mass murders, killings, and in so many ways in the past trend. I've been told I have to change my microphone. Just 1 second. Let's see if it can get you much easier. In this process, is this better for you? Can you hear me clearer?
Yes.
Very much so.
Yes, very much so. Okay. In this process, what we advise to the American government is very simple. Speak to the Iranian government, speak to the Keshe Foundation US, and start organizing for the mass unemployment which will hit your nation. It's very simple. I was talking to a couple of military leaders in the past week, and they said, Mr. Keshe, there is a big problem. We have no more defense. If Iran militarizes this and applies it to all the neighboring nations, we have nothing to defend. There is no option is left but to enter peace talks with our neighbors that we do not spend the money we don't have to spend. This, the situation of 2 weeks ago, and the implication of its technology literally has brought a new dimension into the world peace and the conditions which we have created, and we are there responsible to respond to. My advice to the American administration, His Excellency President Trump, is one thing. We invite you to Tehran for March meeting, and in that conference it's better for you to come with the end of sanctions on your nation to come, not on the rest of the world. Sanctions on selling arms, sanctions on creating wars, and peace treaty that allows all the nations to enjoy the new technology. We do not expect much, but we know we can deliver much. In so many ways, American administration has one choice: enter world peace or shake like a leaf, as we saw with the generals in front of the world media. This doesn't come out of the arrogance. This comes out of so many ways delivery of the technology which set out to Iran some 12 years ago. My message to the White House is very simple. No one surrenders, but we surrender to peace. No one becomes the winner except peace for humanity. And as a leading Iranian nuclear physicist, and in so many ways, tool for peace, we open our operation in Arizona, as we did, we're expanding further in allowing a direct joint collaboration between the Iranian scientists and the Americans and the rest of the world, that we set out a new way, a new law, a new peace condition. I request from the Iranian governments and officials in Tehran, extend this knowledge to the beyond borders of Iran, that no nation can sell tools of war to kill no child and no fathers. The point of changing has come, and has come through the technology and science, and not to the arrogance of guns. As I said, we increase the pressure on all nations to head for peace. And in the coming weeks, we will release systems for mass production of many, many tools. Creation of blood, extraction of the CO2, creation of new systems, household level, to feed nations and peoples without relying on grain and food. These will head us to one direction. We're preparing mankind for the depth of the space. The classroom has started. And in so many ways, as we see KFSSI has entered its research groups, I've seen some 21 groups have been set up in research. Joining these groups to develop new technologies that in the coming weeks and months becomes benefit to human race, and in so many ways teaches us more to do. On the other hand, the question for all of us is very simple. What do we do with the knowledge we gained? And what do we expect from our leaders to lead us to? I have one message for the world leaders. The warmongering is over. Invest in the new technology for space development, feeding your nations, and the Keshe Foundation releases so much technologies that in so many ways, feeding your nationals becomes a pleasure to be part of. As I said, we have shown the gravitational magnetic field system, which belongs and is developed now by the Iranian nation, by the Iranian scientists, was developed in Tehran in 2008. And in so many ways, we brought the knowledge of the inertia and gravitational magnetic field internationally to all of you as GANs. So we need to put these together. And on the other hand, as we already know the knowledge of the matter state, mankind is ready to be taken into the space with the security of understanding the total structure of the what we call universal order. If you would like to understand it in a different way, this is the principle, this is the transition, and this is the matter state. We know this by the books and by the articles which has been released. In so many ways, do we need to create more tools to become faster to reach the depth of the space? That depends on the diagnosis of what we call our religious leaders, our political leaders, and primarily by our soul. In the coming weeks, as we release the new systems, as we expand in the knowledge, then we will see the totality. And then we'll see the next step in the creation of the knowledge and technology, which will allow our nations and our governments to take the new step. We said, as one of our friends said in one of the teachings, show me. The time of show me is over. You show us how you can help us to go further. It's not for us to show you how we go, we advance, for you to take the pleasure. In the coming weeks, we'll increase the pressure in such a way on the governments with showing a new and totally radical, what we call a space technology on the Keshe Foundation. This technology will make the present Iranian space technology obsolete. This technology will bring the totality of all the balances of the forces together. We left the knowledge of the shielding to the Iranians for years. We brought the knowledge of the GANs to knowledge seekers for years, and mankind himself on his own understood the inertia. The new system, which will be developed and released by the Iranian conference, it will be very clear, will be a unit which will be like the universe, will have gravity, will allow to create life, and at the same time, if the life depends on the matter state, will be so. It is a radical change, and as I said, world leaders have two choices: to lead us to peace, or we lead them to no office. Which means the world leaders have to, as you Keshe Foundation knowledge seekers, so many ways, few years ago, with an attack that we gave the knowledge to the governments and not to you. Now we gave the knowledge to you and not to the governments because they didn't listen. Now you and the governments will bring a new life, what we call the new spaceship program, in a very simple way. In a coming system, in the enhancement unit, we will mix the gravitational magnetic field system. We mix inertia and gravitational magnetic field system, and we'll bring in the matter state inertia, collective of what you need to live in space. And this knowledge of the gravitational magnetic field system, we will demonstrate a new flight system, which will be in what we call developed within the enhancement system. The technology has been developed and in due course will be shown. We hope to be able to demonstrate this in Tehran conference. As I said, knowledge is free, but has to be free in the hand of the man of peace. And in that process, Keshe Foundation knowledge seekers have reached that state that we can enforce peace through knowledge. And in so many ways, we have to understand that the new structure, the new world structure, has to be based on understanding of the totality of the work of the universe, and not just man's decision to do what he likes when he likes. And in that process, we will bring a new orders, a new condition. We're waiting for our Chinese team to be ready in Beijing, and then we translate and we convert into the what we call the flu system in China. We're waiting, the Chinese teams are on the background waiting to start this process. The European American team of the Keshe Foundation have put the introduction to this virus ready to start once our team are ready to go, and we'll go further with it.
Mr. Keshe, I see that Ruthie is here. If you wanted to...
Yes, I see her in the background. She's just arrived in Beijing. Can you open it? Ruthie, can you hear us? Wang Lin?
Yes, Mr. Keshe,
Yes.
I'm here.
Can you start translation for the Chinese community?
I'm already translation for about like 10 minutes or 20 minutes.
Okay, we switch at this point to what we call the blueprint for influenza to the Chinese nation, and we will understand furthermore in what process we can go ahead. Rick, would you like to enlighten us with the work which is done by Ella Head of Keshe Foundation in the background, that we understand this virus, we understand what the Chinese community and all of us, now that Chinese traveling across this planet, has brought us as a gift. But in a way, this is very much like what we saw in situation with Iran. It is a gift which unites us, even though it looks so bad. We would like to start the virus blueprint day. This is what is the headache and the problem in China for the Chinese government and Chinese nation. They are spreading and spraying all the cities affected with all sorts of chemicals to prevent it, to control it. And the knowledge seekers of the Keshe Foundation in China it's your responsibility with the knowledge you carry to be able to bring all the materials you have freely at no charge and no cost to your nation. Any of the Keshe Foundation supporters who tries to make benefit at this point for selling the products or the process which is introduced, you have to deal with your soul. Doesn't matter how you produce, what you produce, what we call the production of the materials of the Keshe Foundation and our process in the factory is at disposal of the Chinese nation. What this means, as much as the Keshe Foundation team can produce will be given freely to the Chinese nation for them to protect themselves. At the moment, yesterday, 17 people have died in China and many more are affected and infected. This is a Chinese New Year, and this is a gift from Keshe Foundation to the Chinese nation through its knowledge seekers. We understand what we call the disease. Then we understand how we handled a much stronger disease in pigs, and we understand how simple eradication of this virus will be. As I said, everything comes together. In so many ways, we're in a peacetime conference, understanding of totality of working of all the Keshe Foundation together, and in so many ways, breaking all the taboos about the knowledge and understanding of the totality of the knowledge to help humanity, as the viruses are the only things that will destroy man in space. And this is a very good exercise. This is an amazing good exercise for all of us to understand and to bring a position of what we call peace for ourselves. This is a test run for humanity before we go to space. This is a real test run. We are hit in space with massive viruses. How are we going to handle it? This is it. Now it's hit the nation of China. How are we going to be? It will hit one of our spaceships. How are we going to protect ourselves that all of us in space are protected? We are in a spaceship in depth of the space and we get hit by a virus, energy attached to what we call amino acid. We are on a spaceship called Earth and we got attacked by it. We saw this virus in different form a few years ago, killed many, brought mayhem to the Chinese nation. And now there is a lot of rumors in China, which has some support. This virus was deliberately introduced to create mayhem by the Chinese New Year to create political instability. Does not matter. Keshe Foundation is there. We teach the Keshe Foundation knowledge seekers to be able to support the Chinese community, your families and yourself. The process is very simple. We do not claim a medical application. We claim environmental cleanup. That in the process of cleaning the environment, the totality of the process becomes inevitable for all of us to use. Rick, would you like to start?
Yes. Could we also get the other microphone put back, because the sound quality is not very good on this one. The other one.
Pardon?
The other one. Could we have the other microphone set up?
Do you like it like this?
It was good. It just was rubbing on some clothing or something, but it had better.
Is better now?
I think so. Keep talking a bit there.
Oh, do you want me to sing or do you want me to dance for you?
Oh, you sound very clear. You sing very well right now.
Yeah. Okay,
Okay.
no problem. If you
now-
could explain to us, and I asked the head of the Keshe Foundation, Ella, in the background, who put these things together, together to explain us the science behind this virus.
Right. Well, we have a document that I've gotten from Ella, and we can have a look at that. I think that's what you mean. And
Yeah.
let me get it up here. Increase the size. There we go. Okay. Do a share of that. Okay, just a second. So we have the same graphic to start off here as we've seen before. Virus blueprint day, coronavirus. And there's a table of contents here. And as we go through, part of this is quotes from your previous teachings about viruses, Mr. Keshe. And I'm not sure if you want me to read that or just to scroll through or how we'd like to treat that. I'm not hearing you, Mr. Keshe, so. If it wants me to zoom in, I'll see if I can do that better here. Okay. Would you like me to read this, Mr. Keshe? Sorry, I'm not hearing you. Something's happened here.
Can you hear me?
Yes, hello.
Hi. For this first part, maybe we can give a reference to the article that was written on viruses. It's better explained on how the viruses are approached in the current medical world and what are the viruses from our point of view as energy packages. So we can post the article, which was already published in KF Plasma Times previously, and we can jump directly to the coronavirus, what it is, and what is this new strand that appeared.
Okay, that sounds good. So you can post that in the chat then, and we can put that into our other stream services. Good. Okay, so we'll just skim through that part. So we start with the virus blueprint day, coronavirus. And we have viruses, energy packages without physicality, the dangers of deep space travel. And that will be all covered with the link that is provided in the chats. And then we get into the current approach in the medical world. Some diagrams. How to understand viruses through Keshe plasma science and technology. And we get down to the actual coronavirus.
Rick, I think you better read this.
Yeah,
read the best part of it. Yes, then you can go. Because a lot of people who don't speak English or read English, it's very hard for them to understand. Could you please go through this, so many steps?
Okay.
It's a very long, yes, please. Because we have to understand it before we can go into.
Exactly. Okay, just a minute here. Okay.
Rick, we've been asked if you could read slowly, please, to be able to be translated clearly.
Okay, I'll keep that in mind, John. Thank you. All right, well, we start off with viruses, energy packages without physicality, the dangers of deep space travel. I have said in many of my teachings, a man in the space will not die much of bacteria and infections, but man will die of viruses, the energy packages without physicality. Energy packages which have the DNA strength of the body of the man, and in that process, they will interact with the man. The energy packages which have the strength of the soul of the man, and in that process, they will interact with the DNA of the soul of the man. In a way, it can be said that they become a leech onto the leech. They become leeching onto the entire structure. They don't have physical characteristics. They don't have physical entity, but they have gravitational magnetic field strength in part of their composition that matches one of the pieces of the amino acid of the man. Or it matches the elements that are connected to it, be it the iron in the blood, be it the copper in the muscle, be it the amino acid itself. They can have a field strength of the carbon, so they lock in. And once they are locked in, since they do not have a physical dimension, they carry a massive amount of energy. Because they are made in that way, they do not have the wasted jam of physicality. Viruses in the plasma technology are the package of energy which mankind needs to understand. We have not managed to handle the simple viruses of this planet, those energy packages which have no physical dimensions to what we call amino acid, but they carry energies of the amino acid. It can be explained it can be explained similarly as the food cup experiment, also known as the orange experiment. When you put the CO2 in a tube, when you are making the CO2, the combination of materials of the air makes the amino acid. You put it in another tube, becoming the basis of life. In a third tube, we put CH3, which is a sugar. Positioned around a glass with water, between them, you create gravitational magnetic fields, which pulls down the gravitational magnetic fields of the essence of the orange into the water. Because it has a protein base, then it connects to the body of the man, the protein of the man. So it feeds you the energy of the substance. it is the transfer of the energy of the plasma. You receive all the attributes, the energy, the taste, the smell, everything. You put the orange on the top of the cup and you transfer the energy of the orange and the taste of the orange in the water contained by the cup. There was no need for the physicality of the orange. But when you drank the water, you tasted the orange. It means it is the energy transfer. It means confirmation through plasma structure and confirmation through the orange amino acids. Hydrogen in it is equal to the hydrogen in the water of the cup, according to the mixture of the ganses you have introduced. And there's a subnote here comes from the 243rd Knowledge Seekers Workshop, September 27th, 2018, with a web link, and from the Orange Experiment. These are important details, and man must start looking into it. We have started interacting with the world of medicine in a unique way, in a very fast way. And as we see, many scientists around the world are following the teachings, analyzing, and gradually starting researches on it. The current approach in the medical world. We maybe have a first ground to expand on. When we get touched by viruses on this planet, we go into mayhem and panic because we don't know what to do. If you have HIV, if you have Ebola, when the viruses hit humankind, we panic with it. We see different cases of flu coming from birds, from pigs, from a combination of animals, and there are no solutions for them. The nations surrounded with such cases can only wait to see who gets hit. If you have an infectious disease caused by bacteria or microbes or similar, the current medicine has at once tablets, injections, something still to be done. But at the viruses, they stand back. And when you go to a doctor, it says there's nothing they can do. They have to see what happens. In the present world of science of man, the biggest dilemma is viruses. It is so bad that it is just ignored. There is no solution through the current medicine for it. You walk with the virus infection into the office of a doctor. He tells you, sorry, you have a virus. I do not have medicine for it for you. If it was an infection or bacteria, I would give you something. This is a virus. You have to wait until it goes out of your body. If, as you wait, a virus can go out of your body or goes through its cycle, it means it has an energy level. You must wait for that energy level to be spent on the rest of the cells of the body of the man by its division of itself by adding to the others. It does not mean that it disappeared. It means now it has spread its energy, but it does not have that effect. It does not mean it will not be there, but at the same time, if it stays dormant and another energy finds itself near, the virus comes back up again. It shows itself again because now it absorbed more energy of itself. It multiplies in energy pack difference, division, but still exists because it has gotten that link to the amino acid or to the salt or to something which allows it to stay in that level. Being asked to explain how the colloidal silver and the oxide of chlorine works with the viruses, we can only offer the following knowledge and understanding. The colloidal silver does not work on every virus. Silver has an affinity of the common denominator field effect. What is called silver is a monoatomic even in the matter state. It is a nanomaterial. A nanomaterial has their own field. This is how the silver works. If you look at it as a plasma, it is represented spherical. Figure 1. But when you look at your nanomaterials you dusted, figure 2, it still had a field. When you convert in the GANs, is not a matter of state, it is a field state only. But when it is in the nano state, and what we call silver is a nanomaterial, it has a sphere of effect. It does not work on all viruses because it is limited to a given strength. And we see a diagram of monatomic silver as a nanomaterial and the spherical plasma effect. It's figure 1. In figure 2, it says dusted nanomaterial field state with a spiral figure. And there's a link to monatomic silver as a nanomaterial, the spherical effect in Wikipedia. With the chlorine dioxide, it is a different thing. Chlorine is a cleaning agent that has an affinity in a different direction to the bonding. We have it in our body. That works in a separate way. Silver and chlorine, they are totally different. One works on the nanotechnology, one works on the chemistry. And again, another link to the 243rd Knowledge Seekers Workshop of September 27th, 2018, from where those quotes came from. How to understand viruses through Keshe plasma science and technology. In the Keshe Foundation, we understand viruses are packets of energy, which, in a way, leach themselves into the structure of the physicality of the matter state of the body, or what we call the GAN state of the body of the man. Man in space will lose and have more problem with this kind of energy packages than anything else. As we travel with the highest speed across the universe, we will be touched by many more. Our own spacecraft, in interaction with the different field strengths of the universe, like the way Earth in the interaction of the sun creates different lights, will create different energy packages. That is some of it. Might and could be at the strength of the amino acid or the amino acid strength of the soul of man's plasma direction. What do we do in this case? How can we handle the viruses, these energy packages? How do we come to understand them more? How do we evaluate? How do we measure them that we say, okay, this is the strength of this, and this is what I need to do? When it comes to the viruses, we go back. We call them energy packages. They are dynamic energy packages. To the world of science, the viruses are a menace. There is no solution to remove them. To the scientists of the Keshe Foundation, viruses are as anything else. Any virus, any entity which has a dynamic plasma has a funnel. Any virus has a dimension of the dynamic plasma. It is energy packed and it has a structure in it. The plasma structure, CO2 or any other, usually it is the same as the plasma of a virus. It has a strength capacity. As a first step, we have to find out what the strength capacity of the virus is. If we can measure its strength, we develop technologies which can measure the strength of it. All we need to do is to develop a system which works the opposite, gravitational to magnetical, to drain it, to reduce the virus strength, or one of the factors of the strength in it, which, for example, match into the amino acid hydrogen strength. We see instantaneously that any viruses are reversible. The beauty of the plasma technology, which we have developed, is made directly for viruses. One of the reasons we brought up the entire technology of the plasma through GANs was as a tool for space technology, for a deeper space travel. It allows the man to learn in time all that we call different strengths of it, to apply where it is needed. If the world of medicine, and especially knowledge seekers who are in this field, start working on this pattern, understand the process, there should be no problem for any of us to handle any kind of virus infection. It does not matter what it is. We have to find the way the virus travels. We have to find where it nests. We have to find what its strength in gravitational and magnetical and in the body of the man. When you have viruses which attach itself to one of its amino acids, then you can use any of the ganses which is presently in the possession of man. Some of the viruses we have have a different strength. If we look into the elements of the universe, not only the elements of the planet, in order to, I'll give that to you again. We must look into the elements of the universe, not only the elements of the planet, in order to understand the strength of them. The man has only seen a fraction of the magnetic gravitational field strength. How many elements do we have on the periodic table currently? Take that number and multiply it by millions. Just needs the condition for it to manifest itself in a matter state of itself. It has a link to the amino acid of it. If you have the soul of the amino acid, the COHN, which is created on this planet, and you enter in another dimension where you want to manifest yourself, but in that planet, the structure does not allow you to manifest yourself, yet it has a connection to one of the amino acids of the soul of the man, and you want to manifest yourself as a being on that planet, that strength could be a virus to you. It could be a virus to the soul of the man. Or once you manifest yourself in that dimension, in that physicality, you create the access to your soul through your body to deliver viruses to it. That means it changes its characteristics. It changes its energy. When we change the name of a virus to energy packages of gravitational magnetic fields with structure but no physicality, we see a body. We call it an alien. In a comparable way, the virus has not managed to manifest itself in physicality, but has a dimension of the soul which has an energy and dimension. Then we can handle it and we can understand it. Then we can create another system which matches it, that it can drain its system or add to its system, that it passes the level it attached itself to. Coronavirus. Coronaviruses are species of virus belonging to the subfamily Coronavirinae in the family Coronaviridae in the order Nidovirales, or Nidovirals. Coronaviruses are enveloped viruses with a positive sense single-stranded RNA genome with a nucleocapsid of helical symmetry. The genomic size of coronaviruses ranges from approximately 26 to 32 kilobases, the largest for an RNA virus. The name coronavirus is derived from the Latin corona, meaning crown or halo, and refers to the characteristic appearance of virions, the infective form of the virus, under electron microscopy, with a fringe of large bulbous surface projections, creating an image reminiscent of a royal crown or of the solar corona. This morphology is created by the viral spike S peplomers, which are proteins that populate the surface of the virus and determine the host tropism. Coronaviruses were first described in the 1960s from the nasal cavities of patients with the common cold. These viruses were subsequently named the human coronavirus 229E and human coronavirus OC43. Two further members of this family have been identified, the HCoV NL63 in 2004 and the HKU1 in 2005. And they have been involved in more serious respiratory tract infections. As of January 2020, deaths from China have risen to 17, with more than 540 cases confirmed. It is suspected to originate from illegally traded wildlife. Replication of coronavirus begins with entry into the cell. Upon entry into the cell, the virus particle is uncoated and the RNA genome is deposited into the cytoplasm. The coronavirus RNA genome has a I'm not sure if that's 5 foot or 5 degree methylated cap and a 3 or 3 foot or degree polydentilated tail. This allows the RNA to attach to ribosomes for translation. Coronaviruses also have a protein known as a replicase encoded in its genome, which allows the RNA viral genome to be transcribed into new RNA copies using the host cell's machinery. The replicase is the first protein to be made. Once the gene encoding the replicase is translated, the translation is stopped by a stopped codon. This is known as a nested transcript. There are 7 known strains of human coronaviruses. One is the human coronavirus 229E, HCoV-229E. Number 2 is the human coronavirus 0C43, HCoV-0C43. Number 3 is the SARS-CoV. Number 4 is the human coronavirus NL63, HCoV-NL63, New Haven coronavirus. Number 5 is the human coronavirus HKU1. Number 6 is the Middle East Respiratory Syndrome coronavirus, known as MERS-CoV, previously known as novel coronavirus 2012 and HCoV-EMC. Number 7 is Wuhan coronavirus 2019-nCoV, also known as a novel coronavirus 2019/2020 from Wuhan pneumonia. Following the high-profile publicity of SARS outbreaks in 2003, there has been a renewed interest in coronaviruses among virologists. For many years, scientists knew about only 2 human coronaviruses, the HCoV-229E and the HCoV-0C43. The discovery of SARS-CoV added a 3rd human coronavirus. By the end of 2004, 3 independent research labs reported the discovery of a 4th human coronavirus. It has been named NL63, NL, and the New Haven coronavirus by different research groups. The 3 labs are still arguing over which one discovered the virus first and who has the right to name it. Early in 2005, a research team at the University of Hong Kong reported finding a 5th human coronavirus in 2 patients with pneumonia. They named it human coronavirus HKU1. The 2019 to 2020 China pneumonia outbreak in Wuhan was traced to a novel coronavirus, which is labeled as 2019-nCoV by WHO. Severe acute respiratory syndrome. In 2003, following the outbreak of severe acute respiratory syndrome, SARS, which had begun the prior year in Asia, and secondary cases elsewhere in the world, the World Health Organization, WHO, issued a press release stating that a novel coronavirus identified by a number of laboratories was the causative agent for SARS. the virus was officially named the SARS coronavirus, SARS-CoV. Over 8,000 people were infected, about 10% of whom died. Middle East Respiratory Syndrome. In September 2012, a new type of coronavirus was identified. Initially called Novel Coronavirus 2012, and now officially named Middle East Respiratory Syndrome Coronavirus MERS-CoV. The World Health Organization issued a global alert soon after. The WHO update on 28th of September 2012 stated that the virus did not seem to pass easily from person to person. However, on 12th of May 2013, a case of human-to-human transmission in France was confirmed by the French Ministry of Social Affairs and Health. In addition, cases of human-to-human transmission have been reported by the Ministry of Health in Tunisia. 2 confirmed cases seem to have caught the disease from their late father, who became ill after a visit to Qatar and Saudi Arabia. Despite this, it appears that the virus has trouble spreading from human to human, as most individuals who are infected do not transmit the virus. By 30th of October 2013, there were 124 cases and 52 deaths in Saudi Arabia. After the Dutch Erasmus Medical Center sequenced the virus was given a new name: Human Coronavirus Erasmus Medical Center, HCoV-EMC. The final name for the virus is Middle East Respiratory Syndrome Coronavirus, MERS-CoV. In May of 2014, the only 2 United States cases of MERS-CoV infection were recorded, both occurring in healthcare workers who worked in Saudi Arabia and then traveled to the US. One was treated in Indiana and one in Florida. Both of these individuals were hospitalized temporarily and then discharged. In May of 2015, an outbreak of MERS-CoV occurred in the Republic of Korea, when a man who had traveled to the Middle East visited 4 different hospitals in the Seoul area to treat his illness. This caused one of the largest outbreaks of MERS-CoV outside of the Middle East. As of December 2019, 2,468 cases of MERS-CoV infection have been confirmed by laboratory tests, 851 of which were fatal, a mortality rate of approximately 34.5%. Okay, that information is from Wikipedia. And we have a map showing the spread of the Wuhan coronavirus in China. And I understand that there is a province of China that is cutting off their transportation so that the virus doesn't spread. Okay, continue. Coronaviruses, COV or COVID, is a large family of viruses that cause illness ranging from the common cold to more severe diseases, such as Middle East Respiratory Syndrome, MERS-CoV, and Severe Acute Respiratory Syndrome, SARS-CoV. A novel coronavirus, nCoV, is a new strain that has not been previously identified in humans. Coronaviruses are zoonotic, meaning they are transmitted between animals and people. Detailed investigations found that SARS-CoV was transmitted from civet cats to humans, and MERS-CoV from dromedary camels to humans. Several known coronaviruses are circulating in animals that have not yet infected humans. On 31st of December 2019, the WHO China Country Office was informed of cases of pneumonia of unknown etiology, unknown cause, detected in Wuhan City, Hubei province of China. A novel coronavirus 2019-nCoV was identified as a causative virus by Chinese authorities on the 7th of January. On the 10th of January, the WHO published a range of interim guidance for all countries on how they can prepare for this virus, including how to monitor for sick people, test samples, treat patients, control infection in health centers, maintain the right supplies, and communicate with the public about this new virus. Common signs of infection include respiratory symptoms, fever, cough, shortness of breath, and breathing difficulties. In more severe cases, infection can cause pneumonia, severe acute respiratory syndrome, kidney failure, and even death. Standard recommendations to prevent infection spread include regular hand washing, covering mouth and nose when coughing and sneezing, thoroughly cooking meat and eggs, avoid close contact with anyone showing symptoms of respiratory illness such as coughing and sneezing. Based on currently available information, the WHO does not recommend any restriction of travel or trade. Countries are encouraged to continue strengthening their preparedness for health emergencies in line with the International Health Regulations of 2005. WHO advice for international travel and trade in relation to the outbreak of pneumonia caused by a new coronavirus in China. 10th of January, 2020. On 31st of December 2019, a cluster of pneumonia of unknown etiology was reported in Wuhan City, Hubei province of China. On 9th of January, Chinese authorities reported in the media that the cause of this viral pneumonia was initially identified as a new type of coronavirus, which is different from any other human coronaviruses discovered so far. Coronaviruses are a large family of respiratory viruses that can cause diseases ranging from the common cold to the Middle East respiratory syndrome and to the severe acute respiratory syndrome, SARS. The clinical signs and symptoms of the patients reported in this cluster are mainly fever, with a few patients having difficulty in breathing, and chest radiographs showing bilateral lung infiltrates. Some cases were operating dealers or vendors in Hunan seafood market. From the currently available information, preliminary investigation suggests that there is no significant human-to-human transmission, and no infections among healthcare workers have occurred. More information is required to better understand the mode of transmission and clinical manifestation of this new virus. The source of this new virus is not yet known. International travelers practice usual precautions. While the cause of the pneumonia seems to be a novel coronavirus, transmission potential and modes of transmission remain unclear. Therefore, it would be prudent to reduce the general risk of acute respiratory infections while traveling in or from affected areas, currently Wuhan City, by avoiding close contact with people suffering from acute respiratory infections, frequent hand washing, especially after direct contact with ill people or their environment, avoiding close contact with live or dead farm or wild animals. Travelers with symptoms of acute respiratory infection should practice cough etiquette, maintain distance, cover coughs and sneezes with disposable tissues or clothing, and wash hands. Health practitioners and public health authorities should provide to travelers information to reduce the general risk of acute respiratory infections via travel health clinics, travel agencies, conveyance operators, and at points of entry. If a traveler on board of an aircraft or a ship has signs and symptoms indicative of acute respiratory infections, the Model of Maritime Declaration of Health, Annex 8 of the IHR, or the health part of the Aircraft General Declaration, Annex 9 of the IHR, can be used to register the health information on board and submit to POE health authorities when required by a state party. A passenger locator form can be used in the event of a sick traveler detected on board a plane. This form is useful for collecting contact information for passengers and can be used for follow-up if necessary. Travelers should be encouraged to self-report if they feel ill. The cabin crew should follow the operational procedures recommended by International Air Transport Association, IATA, with regard to managing suspected communicable disease on board an aircraft. International traffic, no restrictions recommended. Wuhan City is a major domestic and international transport hub. Currently, there are no reports of cases outside of Wuhan City. Given the heavy population movements expected to significantly increase during the Chinese New Year in the last week of January, the risk of cases being reported from elsewhere is increased. WHO does not recommend any specific health measures for travelers. It is generally considered that entry screening offers little benefit while requiring considerable resources. In case of symptoms suggestive to respiratory illness before, during, or after travel, the travelers are encouraged to seek medical attention and share travel history with their health care provider. WHO advises against the application of any travel or trade restrictions on China based on the information currently available on this event. As provided by the International Health Regulations 2005, the IHR, countries should ensure that routine measures, trained staff, appropriate space and stockpile of adequate equipment in place at points of entry for assessing and managing ill travelers detected before travel. On-board conveyances, such as planes and ships, and on arrival at points of entry. Procedures and means are in place for communicating information on ill travelers between conveyances and points of entry, as well as between points of entry and national health authorities. Safe transportation of symptomatic travelers to hospitals or designated facilities for clinical assessment and treatment is organized. A functional public health emergency contingency plan at points of entry in place to respond to public health events. There have been 3 cases in Thailand, 1 in Korea, 1 in Japan, and 1 in Taiwan. Although only about 500 cases have been confirmed, calculations by scientists at the MRC Center for Global Infectious Disease Analysis at Imperial College London suggest that there are 4,000 people sick with the virus in Wuhan. See a map of the spread of the new China virus and a map with cases outside China. So to reduce your risk of coronavirus infection, the World Health Organization recommends clean hands with soap and water or alcohol-based hand rub. Cover nose and mouth when coughing and sneezing with tissue or flexed elbow. Avoid close contact with anyone with cold or flu-like symptoms. Thoroughly cook meat and eggs. No unprotected contact with live, wild, or farm animals. How to protect yourself from getting infected. WHO's standard recommendations for the general public to reduce exposure to and transmission of a range of illnesses are as follows, which include hand and respiratory hygiene and safe food practices. Again, it's the same that I previously read, but I'll read them again. Frequently clean hands by using alcohol-based hand rub or soap and water. When coughing and sneezing, cover mouth and nose with flexed elbow or tissue. Throw tissue away immediately and wash hands. Avoid close contact with anyone who has fever and cough. If you have fever, cough, and difficulty breathing, seek medical care early and share previous travel history with your healthcare provider. When visiting live markets in areas currently experiencing cases of novel coronavirus, avoid direct unprotected contact with live animals and surfaces in contact with animals. The consumption of raw or undercooked animal products should be avoided. Raw meat, milk, or animal organs should be handled with care to avoid cross-contamination with uncooked foods as per good food safety practices. What do we know about the virus? The virus originated in a seafood market in Wuhan that, quote, conducted illegal transactions of wild animals, the authorities said. The market has since been shut down. There is also evidence of human-to-human transmission with the new virus spreading to family members and healthcare workers. But understanding how easily and how often the virus spreads between people is one of the major outstanding questions in this outbreak. The virus infects the lungs and symptoms start with a fever and cough. It can progress to shortness of breath and breathing difficulties. SARS and the new virus between the Wuhan outbreak are highly related, both belonging to a family called coronaviruses. Coronaviruses are a large family of viruses, some of which cause illness in people, while others circulate among animals, including camels, cats, and bats. 4 months after the SARS outbreak started in early 2003, research teams in Hong Kong tested raccoon, dogs, palm civets, and badgers and discovered close relatives of the SARS coronavirus, the first evidence that the disease existed outside of humans. The discovery kicked off a rush of viral sleuthing in wildlife, which would ultimately point to rhinolophus horseshoe bats in China as the likely source of SARS. Global surveys would ultimately reveal that the ancestors and relatives of SARS had been circulating in bats across Asia, Africa, and Europe for years. Bats are now considered the original source of all major coronaviruses. The quote, the genetic sequence of the virus itself can lead you back to the source, Olivati says, or Olival says. In Wuhan's case, the closest match is other SARS-related coronaviruses that are found in bats. Wildlife surveys conducted by EcoHealth Alliance in China and elsewhere in Asia show the highest prevalence of coronaviruses tend to be extruded by animals through feces, or guano in the case of bats. Coronaviruses not only spread via the air and the respiratory tract, but also if fecal matter comes in contact with another creature's mouth. Bats aren't exactly clean, so if one nibbles on a fruit, food may get contaminated with fecal matter. The fruit drops to the ground, then it can serve as a viral crossover point for farmed animals like civets. As with SARS, all of this fuss appears to have emerged due to wildlife trade, and virologists aren't surprised. That's because both SARS and the new human outbreak are zoonotic, meaning these diseases started in animals before spreading to humans. Zoonotic diseases rank among the world's most infamous. The HIV, Ebola, and H5N1 influenza, for example, all percolated in wildlife before close interactions with humans spawned international outbreaks. With SARS, food preparers and people who handled, killed, or sold wild animals made up nearly 40% of the first cases. The earliest episodes were also among people who were more likely to live within walking distance of wildlife markets. Health officials first reported the new outbreak on December 31st, citing a flush of pneumonia-like cases connected to a seafood market in Wuhan City, a transit hub in central China with more than 11 million inhabitants. But CNN reported that the, quote, South China Seafood City market in Wuhan peddled more than seafood, obtaining video that allegedly shows raccoon, dogs, and deer housed there inside small cages. But why might such conditions create a breeding ground for zoonotic diseases? Quote, when you bring animals together in these unnatural situations, you have the risk of human diseases emerging, says Kevin Olabal, a disease ecologist and conservationist at the EcoHealth Alliance. Quote, if the animals are housed in bad conditions under a lot of stress, it might create a better opportunity for them to shed virus and to be sick. And we have the area where the virus can potentially spread first. And map of that.
How much more do you have left?
I think we're just about done here, Mr. Keshe. There's only one more panel here. If you want to go through this.
You carry on.
Okay, it's about the most well-known coronaviruses, what they have in common, and how they differ. We have, I guess it's best for people just to look at the table. It's listed under 4 different types of coronavirus with their origins, the transmission, the cases, and the current status. Would you like me to read that, Mr. Keshe, or shall we just...
Okay. We can see it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a conclusion of the whole things above. There. Have we finished?
Yes, that's it. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. If we read from the top to the bottom, the most important part of this report comes in the last 2 paragraphs. If you go to the page above, we see the reports that explains South China seafood city and officials or scientists talking about when the animals are in distress and not in what we call psychologically, in a way, happy condition. We've seen this with the viruses, and man does itself the same thing when you transfer what we call psychosomatic diseases. So we need to understand, in fact, the totality of the disease, and then it gives us and teaches us a lot of things very simply in the last 2 paragraphs and the rest of what we read about. But to be able to handle viruses, we need, in a way, make a conclusion, a summation of the totality. And what does this mean? Is that in the current form, the current condition, and how we getting this repetitive cancer, what I call like they attack us and they kill viruses, is very simple. I'm going to share screen whiteboard. In a scientific way, when we look at the solar system, when we have a sun, and when we have planetary system, in a world of science, of understanding the fields, these fields connect to each other in so many ways. But they connect through the strength, magic strength to each other. Does not matter in which way it could be. So what it tells us very clearly, very, very clearly, these are energy packs which created by emotion. These are energy packs which comes from the emotion of animals or humans. And interesting enough, we transfer it through our lung system, through our breathing, which is the emotional part of the body of the man. We don't see these viruses to attach or attack muscle tissues or whatever else. In so many ways, in the present system, it's very easy to understand how these viruses can be handled. And in a very simple way, we can deplete them from it. As they say, this virus takes hold and moves in within the structure of a cell, which sits on an amino acid, delivering energies which is not needed, and energies which needs to be consumed till the point of a specific condition. And this is very in line with why some people catch the virus and some people don't. Which means those who catch the virus, they all have to have a specific strength, common denominator, energy level. We can come in touch with if our amino acid in our nose or in our lungs is not of the strength matching of the virus, we don't catch it. Which means, goes back to what we said, the specific strength matching locks into amino acid, and this creates this condition. And many people have that strength. And when the strength of the emotion of the animal matches the strength of the emotion of the man, the virus transmits. This is a vital important position for man which travels into space. In so many ways, in space we become homesick. We'll get viruses attached to our emotion of missing home. People get all sorts of these kind of energy packs into our structure. And in a space condition, we need to understand more. This is where a lot of researchers in the future will come in this level of understanding. But how can we help and how can we understand to help? In so many ways, if you have a lung which is infected by this material, by this energy, it has to go through the nasal passage or through breathing of the mouth. So these are air amino acid connected diseases, or what we call energy packs. The most fundamental point for people in China is what they are trying to do is to cover their faces with what we see, and it's become very common, these face masks. At the same time, we see with fever, or we see with sneezing and with the pneumonia, the proper source or proper way to, in a way, transfer the energy of the virus out of it is in a way to introduce another plasma to it against the state, because it's an energy pack. You remember the glass of water with the orange and the banana? In a way, when we created and put material around the cup, we managed to transfer the energy of the orange or a banana to the cup. We created a condition of energy fields that it could be transferred. Many of you, when you made these cups, you said it doesn't taste, I don't feel anything, because there's one vital element was that the glass or the cup you used was too clean. There were no amino acid to create the condition of the transfer. So what we learn from this, one of the most fundamental points for the Keshe Foundation knowledge seekers who go out to eliminate this is existence, presence of amino acid GANs that you use. You create a condition that the amino acid or the field which is connected to the virus finds a passage of transfer. You'll find very rapidly the virus will deplete itself from its energy in the cell. Fever, pneumonia, lung infection will change condition in the body of the man. So one of the fundamental things you have is the use of the amino acids on your gas systems, that you can create that link. The other point is that as this is emotional, has given us a very clear direction. It's connected to the amino acid of zinc. As it connects itself to the muscle, or what we call environment of the muscle tissue of the lung, and can access in nozzle, is the presence and application of copper. You got to remember that the energy of the virus is more. So the total effect of your against your amino acid has to be weaker than the virus, that it can deplete its energy into it, that in a way, part of the energy of the virus still in the cell, part of the energy of the virus in the amino acid, but none has the strength to carry on. And we see the rapid reduction in temperature, in fever, and cleaning of the lungs. The way we suggest to our Chinese colleagues is very simple. You use these masks to breathe, make a mixture of amino acid of the zinc plus CO. And frequently, spray the mask. Either way, as you breathe, it clears the lung, and at the same time depletes if there is any borne virus link connection to your amino acid. In a way, you put a barrier between the one who carries it and your body, if it's not immune to it or has the same strength. By putting the masks, you absorb either way. You deplete it. Very simple, very effective. And in so many ways, in some cases, you can use the gas water of the CO with Zn as to reduce. As is emotional, you can simply wet your hair or your hand with it, that it depletes the emotional strength from it. In a way, goes back to the ethos of the work of the foundation, as this is from the emotion of the animal, is psychosomatic and appears itself in the lung of the man or that. So you need to create a condition that by, in a way, wetting your head with the gas of Zn and CO, you can use a small amount of CO2 for neural connection, and you will find a rapid depletion. You can even use to spray the house. You can spray your hand and make this as water available right across the city. It should not take long to, in a way, bring the energy of it under control, and gradually, as the cell multiplication in the gases which you create will reduce the totality, you will find the virus will be more or less eradicated. This is how, in the space technology of the future, we will do this. But you got to understand, this is a man dimension application as of today. In a space, we don't have waters. So new technologies has been developed that will come into operation in the next few months, where we create a condition that, as we saw yesterday, Chinese are putting vehicles in the street and spraying all sorts of chemicals, trying to protect. What the Chinese officials have to do and understand, if you can create a condition of the amino acid into your mixture plus some gases, you will see effective reduction. Next day or two is the Chinese New Year, even the Chinese New Year. And Chinese Keshe Foundations, you can give this as a gift to your nation. Produce as much as you can and freely in containers give to people to spray their masks, to wash their mouth. And even those who are contaminated, just you can do it. We have a very good news for you. Keshe Foundation has within its arsenal and with its documentation to confirm that these materials are non-poisonous and safe. This is when we produce it in the Keshe Foundation. We are in position of non-toxicity of this material and other conditions done within past few days in China. This is the place, the factory, the productions we have. We have paid a lot of money for it to confirm it. And so we can say from what we have as non-toxic material, these materials, those which we have tested, show non-poisonous, which can be used. And at the same time, we have certification for production of the gas material for this purpose, which will endeavor after Chinese New Year to spread across China in mass production waters, which can give you the support of this material to support the Chinese nation. This is a gift from Keshe Foundation to the government of China. We have already informed the authorities we have the process. Keshe Foundation Chinese production systems need to collaborate and to make these available freely across China. Our production and our team are ready to deliver. There's a restriction of liquid within this city which is damaged or is under what we call curfew of transportation. We have people within the city who have some materials. It's your responsibility to share and deliver to the citizens. We will face these kind of viruses created by ourselves for our emotional compensation in the depth of the universe. And we will attract these kind of energies from the emotion of those we capture. Be it animals, be it other structures in the life of the universe. As I said, the last two paragraphs of the report is conclusion of the reality of what man has done to other animals, that in return they pass their emotion back to us. But the emotion is so high that we cannot handle. Now you can imagine what we've done to these creatures of God. We've seen this in Africa with the fish, and I'm not surprised that they say it's in a fishing ground or in a fishing city by the sea, and they think it's come through the fish market. This could be quite correct. Depends what the fishermen have done to their fish in the what we call development. What have we done to this fish that its emotion has translated itself to a virus to man? Does not necessarily mean it comes from the birds or animals. The same with the Middle Eastern. What man has done to the camel, that he has transferred his emotion for man to feel his pain. This is what we have to educate ourselves, not to see how it comes, see how we have caused it, what has been behind it, us as humans. In a way, we are harvesting the fruit of our own conduct. in so many ways, maybe it'll be the fish which has brought it to us. Maybe it's a combination of different animals in captivity and in so horrendous conditions that this virus is a collective energy of 2 or 3 animals together. What we've done wrong to them, that it has come to us. With this technology, we have to be open, very open-minded, and understand the totality, and not to be captivated by simplicity just to justify our own suffering. We have caused it. We are paying for it. Now, blame it, the Americans have brought it, the dog has done it, comes from the whatever excrement of the animal, is airborne, is the emotion based. In so many ways, the solution, in so many ways, the solution is so simple. But would it teach us something new? Or every now and then we jump from one virus to another because we harmed others. That due to the strength of the virus, we receive it back. Their emotion is connected to the amino acid of their lives, so they're connected to us. And if one day the scientific world does not look at just who has it, but look at the common denominator of the emotion of who got it, who's been infected, I'm sure you will find 99% of all the ones who are infected or catch the disease have more or less the same emotional disease strength as the animal. We saw in one part of this report, it says the 2 children got it from their father. Is the emotion spread the same? They suffered the same as the father, or in the hand of the father that they got it? This is what in overall responsibility of governments to make sure animal care becomes pleasure, comfort for the animal, that in turn they don't become a menace to man through the emotion of the what we call the animal. In the depth of the space, we'll come across these energy packs which affect only certain races because their condition of emotion fits to the energy level. Condition of the soul not being happy with the presence of its existence will bring these to it. The purpose of these teachings is to enlighten the man what the harms he's done to himself and to those who live within and around. And in so many ways, we see these kind of viruses continuously out of East Asia, where animal husbandry is very low, where due to large population, everything is crammed and no one is happy with it to be. When we see these viruses, usually we see them in winter time, when the pressure and emotion bears the condition of what we call cold. And they are usually single-stranded, which is mean connected to the emotion. That is why the Keshe Foundation, what we call GANS technology, interacts rapidly. When you have a double strand, which means the totality of both the physicality and the emotion, very much what we see with the pigs. And those usually, because of their strength, come through higher temperature, warmer places. Mutation at the higher level of strength, and when you bring them to the cold environment, they become deadly, as what we have seen with the African flu in Northern Europe and now in China. We understand the totality of the interaction of the fields. This is one of the reasons no antibiotic works, because what we call virus is connected to the emotion, and the medical and the world of pharmaceutical has no material, no medicine for emotion, energy of the emotion. And this is why energy of the emotion is a dynamic field, and against technology is the only answer, and the only answer to viruses. Now we understand. We have broken to the verge of the science of the universe, and now we understand how we can understand and apply technologies, simple technologies, that in reality, we do not need to go into the physical dimension. We need to solve the problem in the emotional dimension. Mankind is very lucky that he has not, and this strand of viruses are a single strand directly to the emotion. If we make it double strand in the background of the single strand, we'll have the plague we saw in Europe called the Black Plague. Because he had the double strand in the background of the single, and it's so deadly. Maybe this is a warning to our farmers, to our governments, to start thinking about the care of the animals in a human way, that they are happy in their existence, that we will not see any more viruses. Any virus, SARS, whatever name you put on it, through the Keshe Foundation gas technology is resolvable. Irrespective of its strength. We had antibiotics for everything else. Now we have GANS technology for the viruses. And this is why, as I said, our doctors and pharmaceuticals always fail to overcome viruses, because they never understood viruses are energy packs which attach themselves to the amino acid and create such a mayhem. Now that we understand, it is the simplicity of the technology, the simplicity of understanding of the technology to create conditions for this transfer. If you can, and in so many ways, use different gases to just deplete part of the energy of the virus from the body of the man or the animal, you'll find out as it's half-length, it will not have the effect. We will see the reduction in temperature, we will see reduction in fever, we see rapid reduction within literally minutes. We're not talking about hours and days. These energy transfers is from one bucket to another. It's immediate. Very simple. You need connection of the amino acid. You need the connection of emotion, and you need the connection to the body of the man, and in so many ways, a little bit of physical connection through CO2 will do wonders. But make sure the percentage are low, that you don't use too much, that the energy transfer comes to it. If you get your balance wrong, you might even give some energy to amino acid that in return will bring it back, and it takes a slightly longer to overcome the infection or transfer of the motion. As I said, it's the responsibility of the Keshe Foundation knowledge seekers very rapidly to spread this across China. You might have some success with the amino acid and the copper, because in that process, you might have transferred some energies across, because in your amino acid, when you're producing CEO, you might have some ZN, and in the process, you created some CO2. But to be safe, the recipe is this. We know Keshe Foundation knowledge seekers in China hold tons of this material amongst them. Go and just wet the masks, or take the water and let the people breathe, wash, or wet their mask with it, and you will see them, they recover. Go to the hospital where the infected are and just let doctors to use. We provide the certificate of non-poisonous on the back of the Keshe Foundation, Austria. We have the certification that the material is non-poisonous, and this gives us the security to do. Wandin, would you like to explain the non-poison certification, please, that you have received?
Yes, we had done the MSDS report. And they had done the CO2 test of the content test to show what is inside, and some test for feeding the animals, or the skin allergy test is still ongoing. So, and also we already have the water produced by a Chinese pharmaceutical and food factory. That is our water all qualified to fit in all the regulation of the energy drinks.
So in so many ways, we can distribute these waters or on the back of what we have to support the Chinese Keshe Foundation, to support your nation. We hear the reports from Brazil. I've noticed in the international Keshe family saying that the virus has arrived in Brazil. There's no difference. You have competent team in Brazil who make these things, and they can support you this way. You can take a drop, you don't need huge amount of it. You can take a few drops a day on your tongue to keep yourself immune. You can wear the mask with it to keep yourself immune. You can drink some of the water, which is produced by Keshe Foundation, to do the same. It's just transfer of the energy. Go back to the teaching, understand the teaching. When you have infection of the lungs, the structure of the body of the man is a pipe goes down near enough where your stomach is. And in the process where the infection, or what we call the virus, is in the lungs, and you drink the water, which is set for it, you transfer energy across to it. And as this disease connected to the brain of the man, psychosomatic, you do the same when you wet your hair, you breathe, and you drink. You deplete as many cells as possible that allows you to recuperate very fast. No one should die in China of this disease, of this virus, if the Chinese Keshe Foundation supporters be able to spread this material across China as fast as possible. You all make ganses. Those of you who know the technology never did, for sake of your nation, do. Set up boxes and spread it across, give freely. It's you who has to save your nation. We're there to guide. It's a gift we give you as a knowledge. We open the factory production of Keshe Foundation Chinese nation, as we did in Italy during the earthquake, and is the responsibility of you as knowledge seekers to take out to the street, take it out to the hospitals, let the doctors test it, show them it's just water, and let them do, and see how they recover. We can bring this under control before Chinese New Year. It depends on you. We know there is a Keshe Foundation team in affected area. They already tested the water yesterday. We have tried to, they received some materials for the purpose a few days ago. They can use that directly to the hospitals. And we provide you the certification for the waters to keep you safe within the structure of the legal frame of the nation. We have informed the university in China, who is collaborator with us, and are trying to find the channels through the government. The problem with the Chinese structure is maze of bureaucracy set within the structure of the Chinese government. And this has to be sorted within the structure of the President Xi's governing body. There is, living in China for long enough, we see huge problem in China, and as the nation will come to these things, we'll suffer more. I compare the structure to governing of the China very much with the class system of India. There is no difference. Work exactly the same, given different names. One cannot go to the other unless you have hidden yourself not to be in the other. In India, we see those who have no class have no place. This is one of the problems we have in India for the conference. People without a class who are knowledge seekers of the Keshe Foundation will not be allowed in the hotel. What a ridiculous thing for the soul of man. Who made this class, except those who abuse the man. And we see the same thing in the structure of the governing of China. If you are not connected to one group or one class, you cannot go up, and everything dies at your level. One uses imaginary, and one uses the fact to block. This is a problem for President Xi to sort out. As you know, I speak out, correct, and out, and this is what we've seen. There is no difference between India and China, just covered under a different name, different process, and ordinary people have no access to take their knowledge to the top, as those who do not suit them block them because they don't have access. Chinese government has to make a system. The structure of President Xi has to make a system that the totality through what system can have access to everything. Keep your crosses, but make it possible that people can see. And this is what we're seeing now with this, and bigger problems in China will come the same way. The top will never get to know anything because there is no access in the hierarchy of the structure of the government of China. President Xi of China should have been explaining to his nation, there is a solution, we have it, we look at it, it's there and it's done, case is done. Instead, the whole nation, instead of celebrating the new year, lives in the fear of life. There is a problem in the administration of Chinese government, and it has to be sorted at the levels that the nation stays comfortable. As you understand, all the New Year's parties are cancelled. As you understand, there is no single masks to be sold anywhere in China. Everybody bought the mask, but it's the energy transfer, and the mask has not much use unless you can create the barrier through gases that it can absorb the energy. This is what needs to be done. I've been open in consulting the Chinese government, and this is one of the biggest problems we have. We see in China, I'm not the only one, but many people who live in China, work with China, see this structure of the level blockages as one of the main causes and problems in understanding other works and the ways. And it's piling up to the point that sooner or later it has to be addressed. But this disease is one of them. The administration of the government of China should be easy to avoid this and could understand the technology. The scientists sitting on the top of the structure of the Chinese organization with health, blocking everything because they are what they call a specialist, and they see themselves not finding the cure. I better do not put it out because it doesn't give me credibility. It's the responsibility, as we said, if you remember with the keys, we gave the USB stick to the government. They did nothing. We gave it to you, and we've seen in past years what you developed in different aspects. Now, it's your responsibility to do the same. Take the gases to the hospitals and the street and give it to the people. It'll become the responsibility of the Office of His Excellency President Xi to respond to your actions. Let the nation brings prosperity and peace and happiness in the new year. This is revolution in science, and we have to be able to deliver it. All the Chinese Keshe Foundations in Beijing, in Guangzhou, in all parts of China, make as much gas as you can and freely distribute it across. Those of you who keep a stockpile has to become free to your nation. Keshe Foundation material are available to the nation. It's the responsibility of our teams to make sure we distribute as much as we can. Transportation cost of liquid, transportation method of liquid into affected area has been blocked, as I was told yesterday. Drive with cars, take it to and give it to. Next week after the new year, a large factory setup of the Keshe Foundation in China will open up. I'll allow the Chinese government to have full access to this factory for all its production till they're happy the disease is over. Keshe Foundation will cover the cost. But what we need, you can use. Our team are already working on it, speeding it up. And in so many ways, if we can get to the fast production of the portable units in early months of February, we will place these systems across China. Keshe Foundation will cover the cost. That people can just take the waters and disinfect themselves. We can produce structures that create the multiple mixture of all the elements needed for this purpose. We have the knowledge, we have the technology, and we have the backing of the Keshe Foundation in China. Those of you who want to help, go directly and send the messages. If you need help, go directly and send messages to our common line that you all know and you have used. Keshe Plasma China at 163.com. Keshe Plasma China at 163.com. Internationally, if you need any help with this matter, as you understand, Keshe Foundation operation has always had a response and a response criteria that will allow you to contact us, will allow you to be able to send messages, and we try to help you through what we call our common line, info@keshefoundation.org. If you're in Brazil or other countries, you're traveling to China, you need help, or you have the materials you want to spread to help the others, the two channels of communications for Keshe Foundation inside and outside China, info@keshefoundation.org, or the Keshe Foundation common line within the China. You have material you want to send, we'll find drivers to take it. You have materials you want to spread or you want to know, just get in touch with the appropriate link in Chinese Keshe Foundation, which you all know we have used it, Keshe Plasma China at 163.com. We can bring this together, and I'm sure the Keshe Foundation in China will respond to the best of their ability to support. We have materials in different locations, some in different places between different Keshe knowledge seekers, which even if it means we have to buy from them to give it freely to the nation, Keshe Foundation will take other steps. The application of the plasma technology is the only solution to the viruses. Mankind has never had any solution. We have shown and we have delivered, and we've shown it with Ebola. We have shown it with African pig flu. We have shown it in other cases. Now there is the suffering of a nation. And as one nation, Chinese nation is part of us. In so many ways, we have to respond to call of a nation, a call of human race, which sees itself in danger. You do not understand what pressure Chinese community and government and countries under today, on the eve of the new year. We love Chinese, we live amongst them, and we feel the pressure. As I wrote this morning to one of the leading people in Chinese structure, very simple. This is a message from the Keshe Foundation to Chinese officials. We stand solid as friends with your nation and all Chinese government in these times of trouble. Deliver as much gas as you have to the Chinese authorities and make sure that it's free. Keshe Foundation will cover the costs if you want to make a living out of it. But understand, you have to be correct in conduct and in delivery of material. Please get in touch with the given lines we've given you. If you want material, if you are infected, if you know people are infected, and even if you need to get Keshe Foundations near you to drive, to deliver, to be able to support, Keshe Foundation China will be in that position to do so. Please take this blueprint and share it across QQs and the Chinese Keshe Foundations in China, and let those who can help the others be there and be proud to be part of the Keshe Foundation family worldwide. As there are so many supporters in China, we need to respond correctly to the Chinese nation. Put it this way. If somebody from this market has flown on one of the airlines to Middle East and to Europe for New Year, Chinese New Year, and carrying it, soon we will see it across Western Europe and United States. Time of incubation, 12 days. So it's for all of you to be vigilant across. And we see the situation is very serious, extremely serious. I'll show you, I sent a picture to Rick to show you how this situation is taken in China. This is yesterday in China, and you will understand the enormity of the pressure on the Chinese central government. And as Keshe Foundation supporters, you need to understand how this nation is working. I am forwarding this, Rick, it should be on your channel. Please play it, download it, and you can understand how serious the situation is in China today. You can take sharing, please. Have you received it?
Yes, just a second here.
Now you understand why we have given a blue print day for this disease. And this is right across on the eve of New Year in China. Can you play it?
Yes, just getting it lined up here now.
This comes from our Iranian friends on the Iranian channel.
Okay, and actually let me share the sound as well. There we go.
This is how they're trying to stop. And understand if it wasn't serious, the nation does not take such. Any questions? These flus are so effective. We caught one nearly 2 months ago in Brazil, and all of us still suffer from it. We caught a strange strand of it with the temperature, and we still, even today, I still suffer with it. But this strand is very powerful. Any questions?
I guess you want to keep questions on the topic here for now, Mr. Keshe. Is that the idea?
Please do.
Okay, I'll remind the attendees, as usual, that they can raise their virtual hands and we can allow you to speak. And panelists can go ahead if you have a question.
Good day, Mr. Keshe, Andreas from Austria. It would be important to have transcriptions from that R as fast as possible in order that everyone can use it for translations and so on. Should we set up a team to do it in the next days?
Are you still there, Mr. Keshe? Or...
Yes, I'm still here. I said, as of before, this, please share. You can contact what we call Info at Keshe Foundation at the same position, and we'll be given the documents for translation. It should not be that hard to do. We try to back it for the translation to transcribers group if they can do it. We will see a lot of these problems coming up through animals to human race. We've seen the cancers which are what you call working on these grounds. Are there any questions from the Chinese community, if you can see?
Can I ask one question, Mr. Keshe, regarding
Yes.
this? Good day, Mr. Keshe. You know,
where are you from?
It's me, Jalal. I'm in Sweden, originally
Yeah.
from Iraq.
Thank you. Go ahead.
If I want to send ganses, and you know, nowadays, if I send ganses, liquid ganses, it's very difficult in transportation. If I send dry ganses, it will be the same effect?
Yes. The only problem is how you bring amino acid as a dry gans. This is the problem with it, but that's on the other hand, it can be done. Dry ganses show more potency and power in certain cases. But liquid transportation at the moment is very difficult across borders, especially with transportation companies. They refuse to transport liquids. So one solution is dry gases, but we see more effect when there is amino acid, or a lot of knowledge seekers which then never take the amino acid separated from their containers and they mix it with the ganses, they get a good result. And some of the people who separate the ganses, they don't see such a good result because they separate the amino acid. In a good way knowledge seekers have to understand what they use. If they collect amino acid, that batch of gases will not be good for these kind of applications. So we learn as we go along, and the process is very simple.
Thank you, Mr. Keshe.
You're welcome.
We had some questions from Dan in the Q&A. What kind of an amino acid forms on the surface of a glass of water? And what about one with salt water?
What does that mean? If you are making gases, we are talking about amino acid which is made during the process of production of gases.
How do we maintain the plasma fields of amino acid and water?
We usually collect it from the top. And in operation, we see some of them losing that fatty operation because they transfer their energies to environment. But the effect on the strength of the amino acid stays within the water, within the gases. You keep some of the gases of it with it, so the effect of it stays within the structure.
I was just thinking, Mr. Keshe, is it best to keep them intact, let's say, compared to putting them in a blender? Is it a good idea to put them in a blender or not in this case?
Why do you put it in a blender? You transfer all the energy into the metal in the blender.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. But sometimes you said with other ganses to mix them.
For this reason, when you use amino acid, if you use amino acid, you have to make sure you keep it within the structure.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. That makes sense. It's like taking our bodies and putting them in a blender is probably not a good idea either. He also had a question. Oh, go ahead.
Mr. Keshe, is there any way we can do prevention?
Hello, Azar.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning, Dr. Azar.
Mr. Keshe, can we do any prevention, like in the airport, spraying only gases? Somebody can...
You see, the prevention is, in a way, you create that mass, that the energy of the virus transfers to the material you made available. That's the prevention. You cannot bring immunization in the way, but what you do when you spray or you put whatever on in the open environment, you create that filtering effect. It's very much like whenever you fly from any African nation into Europe, there's something funny happens. You'll see just before takeoff, when they close the doors, the air hostesses walk with 2 spray cans in their hand, and they just walk right along from the back to the front of the plane. That is one of the musts. And the reason for it, they say it kills any malaria mosquitoes or whatever which are boarded on the plane. In so many ways, do we have to go to that level that we spray gases in the plane that any passenger carrying the disease, not only breathing it, gets disinfected, but if there is anything in the cabin, we deplete it, that we do not transfer energy across different planes and borders and people. These are the options that the Keshe Foundation in the long term has to put into procedure to be done. There are other ways to do it and other ways to apply it, and we have to expand it to that level. But if you do it in the airport, this is what is needed to be done. Any other news or any other question? It's a very beautiful, short, sharp, effective blueprint. Because you're also become knowledge seekers, it's very easy to share the knowledge so rapidly. Any other question? Do we see anything on the Chinese channels?
There is a news item that just came through today, which is a DNA study suggests that snakes may be the source of the coronavirus outbreak.
Anything could be. You put the snake under stress, it will create it.
Because they were sold at the animal market, were in Wuhan, apparently.
We've seen these things with the fish in Africa, where in Africa, they put so many small fishes in a 5 by 5 by 5 meter tank in the rivers. And as they grow, they don't deplete the numbers, they get tighter and tighter, and they all create cancers of the eye. They will see cancer in the tails, flesh opens up, and they're not happy. And then they sell these, and we see diseases in the food chain. It's normal. We create it, and then we blame it, and then we don't know what to do with it. Keshe Foundation is the only structure in science and technology that considers the emotion on physicality and the soul of the animal, the man. And we need to create a condition of what we call satisfying and bringing balance between all three. When the physicality is not happy, in the dimension of soul of the physicality, the what you call the animal will show its harm to its physical dimension. And now we have the process to do it. We have the knowledge to elevate the soul, to elevate the emotion. And we've seen how it works in China, or how it works in Africa.
Mr. Keshe,
Go ahead.
John here. I've been asked, is there any type of proportions we have to use in the different GANs types? Or just the normal 50-50 or 40-60?
Can you repeat that, John, please?
The proportions of the different GANSs. Do we have to have any special type, or just the normal way we make the GANs?
You see, you got to learn in the process of these uses of the GANSs, which is not observed or known by many of our knowledge seekers, is you're trying to bring balance between the physicality and emotion. Yeah? So it means the emotional side, which is the ZN, and the physicality, which is what connection line of CO2 has to have certain balances. This is how we decide what balance we put in. And then you have a physical factor, which is the copper, CO, then you consider that in that proportion. And then you consider the amino acid comparison to what you want to connect with. Very, very weak, because then the connection will be weak that you can feed it. When we decide on the ratio of gases in any mixture, you consider the totality. Is it emotional based? Is it non-emotional based? Is it touching the physical condition? Is it not touching the physical condition? All these things count when you decide. Then you don't need anybody to tell you the ratios. How bad is the emotional damage that shows itself in a very bad physical condition? Then it means your ratio of Zn has to be higher. That by satisfying the emotion, you sort out the physicality. This is understanding the totality of the knowledge, not in pieces, just numbers and names. Comprehending the essence of the work.
Mr. Keshe, you know what I've always talked about. This should be good for treating, it's your own vaccine.
What do you mean?
With urine therapy.
That's your idea. In so many ways, we're all free to test and try. Bringing balance is the decision what we make with our souls and physicality. Does not matter which way you choose and which way we use, as long as it does not harm our soul, does not harm our physicality, and neither the others. You see, when you look at these viruses, and I heard a lot of the Americans explain it, they spread it, they've done this. We see there are certain things. We are expecting a secondary virus delivery to be released very soon. I'm looking if this virus is one of them. But we are expecting this to be done. In so many ways, I am a strong believer in what I've seen, the data and whatever, why the African pig flu was brought to China. And as I said, we saw it very rapidly in the American supply of pigs to China. It is not normal. The way this flu was spread across China, it was a what we call commercial financial decision. But this is controlling. As I said very recently, and I keep on saying it till people understand, the planet Earth has certain space of land. And in the past centuries, those who thought they are more powerful, they colonized it, the French, the Portuguese, all the European colonization, because they went through the Industrial Revolution and they created mass war weapons and everything else, and they thought they're more superior. And they colonized the African nations in the East Asia and whatever. Now there is no more mass land to colonize. We all became clever, but it's still underneath they're doing it. French are still earning a lot of money out of their colonization because they never freed the nations which they colonized. They're still slave to this nation. Now, as there is no mass land and we haven't managed to find new planets to slave their people, the slavery and colonization has come through the line of science and food and medicine. When you can get hold of a new technology and enslave the others to it, it's a new form of colonization. killing scientists to take their technology, and then using that technology to the advantage of a nation has become part of the work of the European nations and American slavery, colonization through science and technology. And this has to stop. And this is why we spread the Keshe Foundation knowledge this way. The attempted Belgian government on our technology and the others we've seen. Today we've seen Huawei in Canada. These are all part of trying to slave nations through technology, because there's no more land mass unless we slave the fish, the cat, the dog, and the birds. Colonization through science and technology has become the biggest work of the European nations. They are the smallest, they don't have a landmass to feed their nation, so now they steal the same as before. We used to have what we call pirates on the seas. Now they're pirates on the air. The way they got me 11 days in Canada. Now we've seen Huawei in the court. The reason Huawei is in the court, because they're too advanced, so they'll jack the child, we hijack it, and then we force the company to give us what we have. Is nothing but short of hijacking, terrorism, terroristing advanced companies and scientists. And then what happened to our emotion? You feed it back to your nation. You wait and see what will come of a nation called Belgium. You saw the virus coming from the pigs or the snake. It comes from the soul of the man who brought so much. Who will be ashamed to carry a passport from that nation or be called or come from there? You will understand something. And this is part of what we call the process. And this is how it will set. It is, we have to understand mankind cannot do what it's done, and trying to bring it to an end before we take man into space. Any other question? Or shall we call it a day? We are running into our 3.5 hours.
Sean asks in the chat, has the Wuhan case in the US been discussed?
What do you mean?
I saw that it was on the map. I think it was in Washington State, actually, in the US. I don't know other information about that. Oh, Sean has a link. Let me have a look at that. Right, I see from the Seattle Times.
Well, they have a case there.
A man from Washington State had Wuhan coronavirus, and he had close contact with at least 16 people.
Where did he get it from?
Let's see.
He's been to China?
He was been traveling solo in Wuhan since November. And he started feeling unwell with pneumonia symptoms several days after returning to Washington State. He's hospitalized since Sunday and being monitored in a special isolation.
Can somebody go there and give the guy some guns?
He's in satisfactory condition, according to the doctor. So on.
Yeah, percentage of them capture or catch this flu.
Mr. Keshe, Hassan put a question in Q&A. Can I read it for you?
Yes.
he says, when our body takes the virus and overcome its power, does it mean we are able to use the virus energy? So in the future interactions, we can use the virus energy. And also he asked, even our soul creates the virus as a way to strengthen us?
We use the energy of the virus definitely in our body. We already explained that before. But do we create a level of energy, we call it a virus, to support us? In some cases we do. But then that energy applies to certain positions and certain cells, which are what they call the strength of it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I hope we brought a beautiful gift of life and less suffering to the Chinese community. As I said, it's a responsibility of the Chinese community and those who hold the stockpiles. Doesn't matter how much, try to talk to each other, what you are short of the other, drive to each other and deliver it to the people who are infected. And make sure your own homes are secure. Just spray the house with it. Will not come in. Spray the passage of the buildings you're in. You safeguard your neighbors. Very simple acts can clear a lot of ways and brings peace of mind. If there's nothing else, we will end up the day. One of the most shortest and sweetest blueprints. Our best wishes to the nation of China and in your new year. And I'm sure this will come as part of the history of the nation. But on the other hand, we need to understand we're all connected, be it the animal, be it the man, and our emotion affects each other's in the dimension of physicality. Thank you very much.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Keshe. Okay, do we have any other announcements before we close down for today's workshop?
Yes, I think the head of the Keshe Foundation has got some announcements to make, if she's still awake.
Jeanette wants
there's a list of announcements. Sorry, the list of the things which the head of the foundation wanted to announce. If I find it, she sent me a list of it yesterday, I think. And one by one of them is first of all, Keshe Foundation donation line has been opened up again directly through the cards or a standard procedure of monthly payments. The other announcement is that the Keshe Foundation transcribers, if I remember, we need more people to transcribe and translate into other languages that we can share the new knowledge, especially on the 21 groups research group which is set up, that others can join in, and what we call the student KFSSI research groups are already set up. If the people responsible or working with this would like to explain to us what you have achieved in the first week of discussion, what topics you have achieved to do your, what we call 1 year research in, if you're available, you could let us know, please. Is anybody there, like Renan or anybody else? And there is a note here that they would like to inform that in 2 weeks' time is the event in Mexico City conference, that if anybody wants to attend, to register. Do we have anybody from Educational Channel who can tell us more about these research groups you have set up? Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Mr. Keshe.
Is there anybody on the Education Care SSI who can tell us more about the research groups they've set up?
Mr. Keshe, can we add another subject to the research group, or these are selected?
These are decided by the knowledge seekers. We haven't decided.
I mean, can we add to it?
Of course.
Okay.
But as long as you can get enough people to join your group to do it. Because it's very interesting. They call themselves G1, G2, G3. For example, G2 is, what do you call, they already have decided who's going to be there, the number of people, and if any of them is here who wants to do it, to explain to us. There's a number of people in this G2.
I think, Mr. Keshe, it's not a bad idea if all the groups who are in these topics to come in one of the teaching and introduce themselves and explain what they're doing. And so
that'll be done from next couple of weeks. But what is interesting, this G2 is put on his summary of experiments and references. Reproduce Peter's experiment, Gerard Ekman, producing gold while making CO2 gas. And then they go into their public teaching in which sections has been said. And they have to organize themselves to meet on a regular basis on their platform as they set up. And what they're sharing in the structure. These groups are all being set up for the, what do you call it, a specific research they want to do. And I think it'd be nice if they put the title of the research on the top, that we know what they are trying to do, except the people who are in the groups and the knowledge seekers. We need a title for your groups, that people know how they stand. Each group has a number of, what do you call it, people who are joined. The goals, I've seen group G3, G8, G22, G21. I thought there was only 21 of them. We're waiting to see what they come up. Any other point? Thank you very much for today.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr.
And we'll speak next time. Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right, I think that brings to a close today's workshop. We do have the One Nation, One Planet, One Race for World Peace, coming up on Tuesday of next week. And as usual, and we have the Keshe Plasma Reactor Group as well coming up next week. And of course, the private teachings continue with the groups and other activities on that end of things. Okay, thank you everybody for being here for the 312th Knowledge Seekers Workshop for Thursday, January 23rd, 2020. Okay, Flint, I think you can take us out here. Thank you.
Hello. We are the Keshe Foundation. Our mission is to bring peace on Earth and join humanity with the universal community. We wish and work to bring man as equal to all beings in the universe. By teaching plasma science and technology equally to everyone, no one is left out and no one is abused due to lack of knowledge. By donating to us, you can help achieve this goal. keshefoundation.org/donate. Innovative, revolutionary, stellar development, purest universal knowledge. In a transformative, futuristic design. The Universal Body Enhancement Spaceship Unit. The very first new evolutionary spaceship technology has been rolled out for mass production. Our Universal Body Enhancement Spaceship Unit is constructed from high-quality materials carefully selected by our team of experts. Embedding the essence of the new GANS plasma science and technology, it uses collective plasma field technology for changing and enhancing the environment of the body of the man. This new plasma enhancement changes the environment of the body to allow it to return to its natural, balanced, energetic condition, as in the womb of the mother, allowing every cell in the body of the man to find its natural, original field strength balance. The shape and field distribution in this new space plasma technology replicates the inner structure of the universe and replicates the balance fields from which the man was created at the point of inception in the womb of the mother, not only receiving balance in the physical, but also in the emotional sense too. For the first time in the history of man, a system has been developed and delivered which not only enhances the physical body of the man, but also enhances the emotional part of the user of the system, hence reducing and eliminating many problems that could not be solved in the world of science, to bring the body of the man into near perfection as at the time of birth. This new spaceship technology can be within the reach of every man today and can be ordered by medical practitioners, sports specialists and healthcare centres. The Universal Enhancement Spaceship Unit, the future you have been waiting for, is here. The journey from space to spaceship technology has started. Every order is subject to a contractual agreement and might require additional accessories priced separately for applications according to each case. You can order or contact us at office@at.kfm.global for additional information. This video gives an insight into the therapeutic progress of a wheelchair-bound subject diagnosed with Parkinson's and Alzheimer's. Male, age 58, since his late 40s has been suffering from the two aforementioned conditions, which over the past 2 years have progressed dramatically, leading to a substantial loss of control over his limbs. He was brought into the hospital in a wheelchair, unable to transition from it to a standing position, stand by himself, or walk unassisted. Holding a pen and writing was also beyond his physical capability. The processing of this case started in China in early September 2019 using the Universal Body Enhancement Spaceship Unit. The subject spent 15 to 20 minutes twice daily in this unit under the supervision of a team of qualified doctors and physiotherapists. The progress of rebalancing this condition through the use of the Universal Body Enhancement Spaceship Unit is presented in this video. Knowing that every case is unique, the duration of the full rebalancing for such a condition while steadily reducing medications is approximately 16 weeks. Currently, a team of healthcare professionals continues with the process and upon completion will report its findings to the scientific world. Day 1. The initial assessment. The volunteer is in a wheelchair. He is unable to take any steps on his own. Day 4. Standing up. The volunteer stands up by himself after the plasma processing sessions and takes his first steps using a walking frame. Day 5. The volunteer is walking using a walking frame. He is walking unassisted, walking outside, and is confidently walking towards his car. Day 6. Walking outside. He is walking with more ease by the day. Day 12. Plasma processing. The volunteer walks faster, easily passes through doors, and even manages to sit down unaided. Writing. The volunteer is able to write for the first time after a very long period. Day 14. Standing up. The volunteer transitions from kneeling to standing. Day 15. Ongoing improvement. The volunteer is now far more agile. Day 29. He is able to do squats on his own. Day 30. Progressing. Various exercises, such as step climbing on elevated surfaces and walking backwards, are now possible. Day 30 plus. Vocal exercising. The volunteer begins vocal exercises to restore his voice and speech. The volunteer practices motor skills and hand-eye coordination using a ball. Day 36. Exercising. He practices further coordination skills. He is more proficient when step climbing on elevated surfaces. Day 40 plus, walking. The volunteer is confidently taking a walk in the park. Day 40 plus, coordination. Now he is confident to resume a normal life and go shopping with his family in the crowded market. He is improving his movement coordination. Day 40 plus, exercising. He continues to exercise in the public parks. Day 42, running. Unimaginable. 7 weeks earlier, he was in a wheelchair. Now, the volunteer runs for the first time. Day 42, running. He is running longer distances with ease. Day 45, running. He quickly progresses, getting better day by day. Now he runs in the sports arena, achieving 300 to 600 meters in different sessions in a way that doctors barely keep up. Day 59, climbing. The volunteer engages in adventure park activities and successfully climbs on a net. Day 60, cycling. He now adds cycling exercises to his routine.